It's been a passion of mine for a long time, especially in a children's hospital. You can imagine if it's an adult or a child, you come into the hospital, you may spend a month there, and when you come in, you get completely disconnected from what's going on. You're disconnected from the everyday life in the hospital, so you don't necessarily know all the lab results, all the tests. Really, the only communication you have is verbal. And then the second part of it, you're disconnected from your social environment. And today, that social environment is so much more electronic than it used to be. So really, you get this complete shut off. Not only you're in the hospital sick and not feeling well, now you're disconnected from everything else. So getting people connected back to their home life and what's going on in the hospital is something I felt very strongly for a long time. And so that's really what the initiative is about. What it actually translated to is putting an iPad or a device in every single room and allowing the patient to use that as if it's their own. It wasn't a device that we locked down, controlled, said you can only look at these 3 things. We really gave it to them in an environment where they can do whatever they like. We have age profiles for the children, so obviously it's age appropriate, but the parent's able to override that. So if they want to use it themselves, or they think their child is able to use something that's a couple of years older in the apps and the games that are on there, we let them make that change. But they're secure in the knowledge of when they're discharged from the hospital, that device is completely wiped. And so that's really the key part of it. And our neonatal intensive care unit for the premature babies, obviously they're not using an iPad. And so we really wanted to there connect the family back to the child. You can imagine if the child is in the hospital for 3 months, right after they're born, you don't even get to hold the baby, and you might feel very disconnected, and that early bonding is kind of removed. So we have webcams over every single crib, and the family is able to connect at any time, whether that's the mom, the dad, the uncle, the grandma. They're able to connect on any kind of device, anytime they like, and have almost like a virtual visit. So we feel that's really bringing the patient and the families together virtually if they can't be there physically. Just incredible. I mean, lots of different ways we measure that. Obviously, great anecdotal stories. I mean, ones that would almost bring a tear to your eye with a brother and sister who'd not met their tiny infant baby because they'd not been able to go into the neonatal intensive care unit for the very first time, saw them and interacted over an Apple TV at their home, showing it on a big screen television. So that really bringing that connection story. So some great anecdotes of how this has really impacted individual families. Other ways on our patient satisfaction scores that we take a great deal of importance to. We've seen on those units that have had the iPads deployed big increases, noticeable and sustained increases. And in fact, we've been very careful to roll those out a whole floor at a time, because we don't want people to have, in one room have the iPad and not in another room and have not a great experience. So we've seen sustained improvements in patient satisfaction as well. And we think this is just the beginning, because we've got lots of great ideas of apps specific to the hospital to put onto these devices. I think a lot of people want to do this, and there's been approaches with products a little like you have in a hotel room for a long time. I think we wanted one, that Apple iPad platform. It's so familiar to people. It's a device they use every single day, and not have something that was very proprietary or hospital-based. We certainly want to educate people and provide information about their hospital stay, but we know kids want to play. That's a big part of it, especially when in the hospital you want to play, and we want something that's familiar. And so we think on both of these devices, it's something without a barrier. We don't want the kid to be intimidated by the technology, have to go through some learning curve. It's an iPad. They intrinsically know what to do. The same thing on the neonatal intensive care unit. We made it work on every type of phone, every type of tablet, every PC. We didn't want them jumping through hoops of installing apps and not being able to see their child when they wanted. So really that connectivity and making it always kind of work, and instead of making it easier on IT to do, make it best for the patient.